one of the best sports doctors in the world, who knows all things about all things when it
Pull
comes to
him in right now. You see him? What he's sipping on?
Jesse Morse. Yeah.
I had to catch him on that. That's a big time right there. That's like a doctor in his thoughts. You must
This
be
is
at
my
home
home
today.
office.
You at home or in the office?
Home.
Hey, JB, he said Dr. Jesse was in his thoughts. Like he just was just embracing the moment.
Legs crossed, pinky out.
Just smelling the sea and
aroma. Hey, Doc, right out the gate, the Lions, 13 defensive injuries, still number 1 on my power rankings in the NFL. They continue to figure it out. They had one of their best D linemen go out last night, came back in the game, and then went back out. And all we heard was it was a head injury, not a concussion, is what they kept saying on Amazon. Where are you at with that, and what's going on with their best interior D lineman going out and saying it was a head injury, not a concussion? What would that even mean?
It's a good question. So anytime they're evaluating for head injury, it's almost always a concussion. That's just how it is. The fact that they were able to let him return means that he cleared the initial protocol. The protocol is if the first team doc, there's 2 team docs that evaluate concussions, and there's 2 surgeons. One of the 2 team docs will evaluate the player on the sideline. If he or she feels that the player has a concussion, that's it. It's over. They're done.
We're talking about Alan McNeil, right? McNeil kid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If they're not, if they say, hey, no, I don't think he had a concussion, then the independent neurotrauma consultant will review the player and say, okay, what do I think? And then if they say, yes, I agree, there's no concussion, he can go back on the field. If he says, no, I think he has a concussion, then they talk, and both docs talk and decide what the discrepancy is and go from there. So obviously they must have said, hey, there's nothing enough concerning for me to say, yes, he needs to be shut down. So they allowed him to go back in the field. Now, there's a lot of times you can have neck issues secondary to, because a lot of the times the neck is recoiling or not able to handle the stress of the hit or however it happened. And you'll have some spasming and stuff like that. That's the first thing that comes to mind. They've been super banged up this year, like crazy, but still balling. You're still doing great.
Nah, no doubt. They're still defying all odds, Smitty. They're defying all odds by keep winning. They've won 11 in a row. Listen, man, the Packers won me some money last night on the money line or on the bet, but the Lions get it done again. And I'm scared that Goff won't show up when it counts on the biggest stage. That's why the Rams got rid of him. It proved McVay right. I still saw some throws last night where I'm like, why would you throw that? Because anytime he has the Derek Carr syndrome, anytime somebody gets around his feet, he will let that ball go, and it doesn't matter where it goes. And that's the one issue I have with him. Sometimes you got to have some nuts and guts, take it in the chin and take that sack, not just throw it up for grabs. And he does that more often than not. And I think that's what will cost the Lions ultimately. But what other big injuries do we have going into this weekend as we have about 4 weeks left in the NFL as we get ready to seed these guys in the playoffs?
So there's a couple injuries that are kind of 50-50 right now. Kenneth Walker and DK Metcalf are both up in the air right now. So they kind of dilly-dallied last week with Metcalf, do not practice, and then and Lockett too, and then full practice, no issues. This week they were both Metcalf and Walker were limited on Wednesday, and then they were both downgraded to do not practice on Thursday, which is usually the opposite of what you'd like to see. Usually they go from do not practice to limited. So now that becomes important today. Metcalf likely not only tweaked that MCL from his knee, that he had about a month ago, but I think he suffered an AC sprain. So we'll have to see how effective he can be. JSN has been incredible. So I think he continues to be the alpha there now. But for Kenneth Walker, the question for him is he's got a calf and an ankle. So, sometimes they just tweak their calf like Josh Jacobs did earlier in the week, and he played and he was fine. He looked incredible. Sometimes it's a true calf strain like Russell Wilson had, and which they take forever. So, obviously, we'll have to see what it is. Charbonnet was also on the report, but he had an elbow, and he was a full practice. So, you assume if Walker can't go, and we should probably know today, it would be Charbonnet's, backfield for the weekend.
Bailey's not too happy about that one if those guys don't go. They're in the middle of a NFC West. You know, it's very tight over there. The Rams play the Niners next Thursday night on Amazon.
Yeah.
That'll be a game that could decide a lot. The Arizona Cardinals and the Seahawks are jockeying for that position. It's going to be interesting on who gets into the playoffs out of that league. It looks like only one team will probably get out of that division this year.
Yeah, because they're all so poor. You know, the records are so low.
Yeah, so right now, man, betting odds are on the Rams, which is crazy. If they get through it, I guess they're going to go with the Super Bowl winning quarterback and coach, I guess, out of that division. I guess is why they're leaning that way. But
the 49ers look like they're choking and they're injured like crazy.
They're done. The Niners are done. I think it's Cardinals, Seahawks, and Rams is like it's a 3-team race in that division right now.
Hey, Doc, talk about some quarterbacks. Speaking of the Niners, is Purdy? What's going on with Purdy and the Niners?
I was reading a little blog or whatever you want to call it yesterday, and it was interesting because they said, you know, he's got a shoulder injury, throwing shoulder. They haven't specified what it is. In my opinion, it's probably a small labral tear. I commented last week I was concerned about him on another show, and it's saying like, hey, if you're going to take him, take the under, because I just don't, between the weather and between how ugly it could get, and I think he threw for 94 yards. And that was with a healthy Debo and Kittle and Jennings. So Pearsall hasn't done anything in like a month. And then obviously they lost McCaffrey and Mason. I just think that they have to decide: is it in his best interest to continue to throw, or does he repair? Does he repair it? Is it okay if he just continues to throw and then their season's over and it has it repaired in the offseason? That's probably how they're going to play it out. But then the question is Purdy worth 30 million? Or whatever the price is, whatever number they can pull out of thin air. Because they're doing all this with him on a sub million, maybe sub 3 million cap, whatever his impact is. And then I think the other question is, and this is where the article I was reading, do they have to re-sign Shanahan to run Purdy? Or can they do this separately? Because I think they have to kind of go as a piece. So that one will kind of determine the other. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. But I have concerns about, they have a much better matchup this week, and Purdy does, so he could be a top 10, 15 play this week, but I still have some concerns about him. And Guerrero is going to be running the ball, and maybe Izzy Abanikanda, who was incredible in college, but then he tore his Achilles, and we'll have to see. He hasn't obviously really made an impact in the NFL yet. As far Caleb Williams will be fine. Baker Mayfield will be fine. He got cleated in the leg, I think. And then Trevor Lawrence, this is the fourth player this year, offensive player, that suffered a concussion and went on IR. Okay, so this is a new trend that's not common. Tua obviously happened a couple of years ago, but that's pretty rare. We've had Olave, we've had Eckler, now we've had Lawrence, and we had Tua obviously earlier this year. So there's a shift. Normally they wait a guy 2 weeks and then they come back. You automatically shutting them down for a month is an interesting approach. So we'll have to see if this is a start of something new. I don't know if there's data to support it per se. I get it, but I don't know. It'll be interesting because, in my opinion, the Dolphins are no longer relevant because of that 4-game stretch where he was out. At least 4 games, we'll call it. But it's more like 6. But that pretty much derailed their whole season. I don't care how good your offensive players are. If you don't have your quarterback that can run that offense, it doesn't matter. Is it justifiable to shut them down for a month? I guess it depends on who you ask. But I just thought that was fascinating that, that's something that I'm aware of, that we've never seen before. And I've been doing this since 17, so a couple of years now.
Yeah.
Man. No, it's been an interesting year again. I feel like, it's like a kind of a robot repeating the same thing we said last year, right? When it came to all these injuries, and it's like this year got even worse. I want to ask about the Eagles. We're talking about the NFC and some of the best teams out there, and obviously the Lions and Eagles are kind of at the top right now. But Devontae Smith, right, missed last week, if I'm not mistaken. Mm-hmm. How is he looking this weekend? Is he expected to play? What's the status on him?
Yeah, so they'll get Devontae Smith back, but they lost Dallas Goedert.
Damn. Okay.
So they got one up and one down. Calcaterra, I think it's how it's pronounced. will fill in for Goddard. Goddard has a new knee injury. We don't know specifics. I didn't even see video of the play. They just called it week to week, which usually means it's more moderate than mild. And he hasn't practiced yet this week, so that tells me he's unlikely to go. Devonta Smith missed last week after retweaking that hamstring from a couple weeks before that, and they were just being super careful because obviously they didn't want a Nico Collins, Mike Evans situation. I think they're going to come back. I think he's going to come back this week. AJ Brown will still be the alpha there. Saquon obviously been absolutely bananas. So they have most of their core. I think they can just swap out Calcutta for Goddard. So it's not a huge drop there, but I think Devonta Smith will complement well.
Got you. Now, listen, this is more of a selfish question for myself. I'm a Colts fan.
Yes.
What's the stats about Josh Downs? I know he's been out. He's a big time weapon for us.
Well, I think it was a timely decision last week to sit him because of their bye this week. I think they just said, it's not worth it to try to rush him back when you have another week to rest. So just give him basically almost 3 full weeks.
Yeah.
So my suspicion is he had a type 2 AC sprain, which is kind of like when this is partially torn.
Yeah.
Great type 3s are really rough. That's what Richardson had. That's what Trevor Lawrence just ended his season with. I suspect that Downs will probably be able to return next week. So they should be pretty healthy. Crazy ending to that game last week. And I think that they'll be relatively healthy. That's the last bye week this week, and there's 6 teams on it, which is kind of silly. But so they'll come out of the bye probably a lot healthier than when they went into bye and whatnot. There's another guy that probably needs to be discussed. 2 more actually that are both running backs. Breece Hall. When they went into the bye, we didn't hear anything about a knee injury. They went through the whole bye, and then all of a sudden, last week on Wednesday, he was do not practice with a knee injury. We're like, wait, what? Like, where did this come from? So oh, well, maybe they're just being extra careful. But then we heard a reporter say, they're not even sure how he's going to play in this game because it was more significant than they thought. I think it was Richardson. He ended up playing, but he didn't really do a whole lot. And now he didn't practice Wednesday or Thursday this week. So I wouldn't be surprised if they shut him down, at least for this week. I've had people ask me, are they going to shut him down for the year? I don't know. The end of the year, it gets tricky because we don't know if the team's like, hey, we're done, it's not worth the risk, shut him down. Right? We've seen that every year. We see that with a couple guys that the teams are just done and they just say, hey, it's not worth the risk. The Bears running backs are both banged up. DeAndre Swift is do not practice ×2 with a quad injury, and Roschon Johnson has not even practiced this week with a concussion, so he's pretty much out for the week. He doesn't have enough time to clear it. So that might mean that Travis Homer is the top running back for the Bears this week, which will be, and then DJ Moore also has a quad, and he has not practiced. Keenan Allen will be fine with his ankle. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. We should hear a lot more today. Rarely do we have, over the past month, we haven't had as many questionable guys going into Friday. But this is one of those weeks where there's a lot more guys. And for a fantasy purpose, because there's so many teams on a bye, and this is usually the last week of the regular season, this is a really important week. If you lose this week, most of the times you don't make the playoffs if you're right on that fringe. So, and it's unfortunate because not only you're depending on guys that are playing this week, but if they're injured, now you really, there's only so many spots that you have on your bench, right? If you have 3 or 4 guys on a bye and you only have 5 or 6 spots on a bench, you only have so many guys to fill in. So it gets tough. Well, I think Pacheco and Brooks will both get more volume this week. We'll see CeeDee Lamb play on Monday, but I don't think he's going to practice at all this week. And he's kind of risky, so you're playing with fire there, so be careful. We saw him miss half the game last week after he re-injured his shoulder. Ladd McConkey should play this week. He's got a combination of a new knee injury and then that pre-existing shoulder, likely AC sprain. The kid is just gritty. He reminds me of like a young Cooper Kupp. He's just going to try to play through whatever he can. He's been incredible. And Jamar Chase popped up yesterday with an ankle. This could be contractitis. This could be a true ankle. But either way, I think he's fine. I think he's just being smart. Malik Neighbors, this is interesting. You guys can discuss this at some point in time. Malik Neighbors reportedly has been dealing with a groin strain since college. And we hear about it about 6 weeks ago. He missed the game. And then about 2 or 3 weeks ago, he re-injured it and missed or didn't miss a game, but he played through it. And then one of the reporters said, "Hey, is this a new injury?" He said, "No, this is the same one that's been bothering me since college," which I thought was a little fascinating because that's 3-4 years now, depending on how long ago. It's bothering him again. He popped up the injury report yesterday, and this is the nature of groin strains. They're notorious for re-injury. He needs to address this in the offseason. And this is usually not something they do surgery on unless it's really bad. But this is going to limit his explosiveness. So be careful with Malik Neighbors, especially since Drew Lock is the quarterback. DeVito is out again. So we'll have to see how that plays out.
He might as well end this season right now and just get that taken care of. This season is over.
Yeah, I think he just wants to do whatever he can for rookie stats and stuff. But he's been incredible. But it's just unfortunate. Something that popped up that kind of went on the radar. A former, what we thought was going to be elite wide receiver, Treylon Burks, sprained his ACL, probably a partial tear if I were to guess, and he was shut down. He's done for the year. Just kind of went under the radar. This was a guy that we thought everyone was going to be like AJ Brown, like an elite stud. And he just hasn't panned out like we thought. This is another injury for him. Keon Coleman might be back this week, but he was in a non-practice jersey yesterday, a red jersey. So I think he fractured his wrist is probably my guess, but he might also have a ligament tear. So that's probably why it's taken him so long. Dalton Kincaid looks like he's coming back. He has a PCL sprain similar to McCaffrey, but he's finally kind of on the other side coming out of it. Tillman will not play with his concussion. Dobbs missed last night with his concussion. If please let me know if you guys saw Jaden Reed anywhere last night, because I have no idea where he went.
He fucked me on my draft.
I saw a stat thing because I think he was on a podcast weeks ago saying, wait till we play each other. And then you sent to me, JB, and he had one throw, like one.
Yeah, nothing. He didn't catch it. I mean, he struggles versus man, but like, come on, man. Like,
he fucked me.
But and then finishing strong, Taysom Hill's unfortunately done for the year, maybe done for his career with an ACL and probably a fracture. If they haven't announced it, but based on the video, it looked like it was a bad injury. Maybe a tibia plateau, maybe a couple other things. Jatavion Sanders, the rookie tight end that looks really good from Texas, plays for Carolina. I think he's going to come back this week. And then Ferguson will be back clearing the concussion protocol for the Cowboys. And that's pretty much what we have heading into week 14.
That was beautiful, Doc, man. Thanks for that run. Y'all not going to get this type of information literally no place else. So everybody in the chat, I need to thank Dr. Jesse Morse for y'all little last few weeks of fantasy. You trying to figure out who to start, who to bench. You're trying to place your bets on BetUS. You just heard it from the Doc right now. Take this information, use it wisely. Doc, we appreciate you, my guy. What you got going on this weekend?
It's a good question. I have a huge procedure in a couple hours that costs more than most people's Porsches.
How much is it?
120.
Then I'm flying. Are you nervous? Are you excited? How you feeling about it?
Oh, we good. We do this regularly, so we good.
Okay.
There's money in Miami that doesn't exist in other parts of the world. I'm convinced. But rather than being in pain, if you have the resources and you want to avoid surgery, if it's 0.1% of your net worth, is it really worth? For regular people, it's crazy, but but long story short, repeat customers do well because they know the quality of work.
Somebody probably called him. Yeah, you got a call. Is he back?
Not sure. There you go.
Doc, you hear us? We can't hear you.
Doc, don't trip.
Don't worry about it, Doc. If you can't come back, it's all good, man. Hey, he got a procedure.
We'll get him Tuesday.